Hey, it's me, MLB. Here is Chance Ball Chapter 71, and this one is titled Focused. Just then, as if on cue, Miss K toddled into the room with her Woa ball and saw the look on your face. "Mummy's sad?" she asked. "Yeah, Mummy's sad," you said to her, your eyes brimming with tears. "Feel better, Mummy," she said as she walked over and patted your leg and then held her Woa ball up for you to cuddle it. "Cuddle Woa ball?" You took the volleyball from her and cuddled it, while Dabi watched on with amusement. "Do you feel better now?" he asked cheekily. Yeah, I do actually," you chuckled. "Good. Now don't think about it anymore. Only think about it when it's absolutely necessary." You snorted with soft amusement at him. "Is that easy?" "Yep, that easy. Now make dinner. I'm hungry." Now, you didn't usually condone violence in the house, but just the absolute audacity of this man made you grab the wooden spoon and bonk him on the head with it. "Ugh," he grunted, clutching his head. "Bad Mummy. Don't hit." "Ah!" He up and yelled again when you walloped him on the backside. "No, Mummy," Koemi yelled, with the most pissed-off 2-year-old face she could muster, and reached up to grab her Woa ball from your hand. "No Woa ball for Mummy." "Well, now you gone and done it. You're in trouble," Dabi teased you. "Your Woa ball cuddling privileges have been revoked." "I'm about to revoke your special daddy bedroom privileges if you're not careful," you warned him, pointing the wooden spoon at him. "Anything but that," he gasped, picking up Koemi, who was still defending him, and backed out of the kitchen. "Good, now get going," you called after him as he left the room. The next morning, you and Koemi were at Mr. Totoru's place nice and early, and had just set up when he came walking out to see what you two were up to. He had very kindly given you a set of keys so you could come and go from his place as you pleased, and you commented to Dabi that old men just seemed to trust you considering your relationship with your elderly boss from the store. "Your lessons are very popular," he said to you as he sat down and accepted the mini volleyball from Koemi, then gently tossed it to her for her to receive, which she did quite well, and bounced it right back to him. "Oh?" you asked. "I heard 2 ladies talking about Woa ball volleyball training at the fruit and vegetable shop in town," he said as he picked up the ball and tossed it to Koemi again. Good things, I hope," you said with a chuckle. "Yes, I think one was the mother of Miru, the shy boy. She was saying how much more confident he's become." "Yeah, he's really come out of his shell in such a short space of time," you said with a smile. "And as you know, I now have 3 sessions a day, which is why I'm going to have to quit at the store. My boss is very disappointed and told me that he'd have to sell because he can't maintain it himself." You sighed. Mr. Totoru could tell it was weighing heavily on your heart, and he softened. "Is it just due to old age that he can't maintain the place?" he asked. You explained the whole backstory, and Mr. Totoru listened while gently tossing the ball for Koemi while you talked. "I'll start advertising later this week," you said. "First I'll make sure I'm up to date with everything." He nodded in silent thought, and then the first lesson started and Kyo and Goru came running in excitedly to start their training. "Warm up first, boys," you called to them when they immediately started fighting over volleyball, even though you had a whole cart full. Kyo was the first to follow orders and turned away from his brother, and then jogged to the back fence and turned around to wait for your next command. You very quickly lined up some volleyballs on the ground and then called to him, and he came charging in and weaved his way through them and then came out the other side with a bright grin on his face, then went straight back to fighting with his brother. As you were trying to get them apart, Mio arrived and ran straight over to Koemi, and the pair walked off together to throw volleyballs to one another and practice receiving, so that was a relief. Then Emi bounded through the door and nearly bowled Goro over, who managed to get the ball off his brother and was making a run for it. "Play hot potato?" Emi asked you, running over and tugging on your shirt. "Yes, we'll play hot potato in a second, but just let me get everyone together." You called for the others to come over while Emi's mum was trying to talk order into her overzealous child who had run inside ahead of her. The boys were not in a good mood and were still quarrelling as you clapped your hands to try and get their attention. Then, to your surprise, Koemi walked over to them and gave them both a good smack on the cheek. "Listen," she announced loudly and pointed to you. Both boys were so stunned they didn't know whether to cry or not and just looked at you. "Oh gosh," you said quickly. "Koemi, please don't hit the boys." "They're not listening, Mummy." "I know, sweetheart, but let Mummy be in charge, okay?" you asked. Both boys meekly followed her over to you and stood quietly, while Emi's mum finished up putting sunscreen on her wriggly bundle of happiness. Thankfully, she'd been so distracted by her own daughter that she hadn't seen you girls slap the boys into submission. and with everyone now ready to go, you started practice. Koemi seemed to be quite on it that day, and was very good at keeping Kyo and Goro in line. Kyo was the more behaved of the two, but in a split second he could become a terror, but if he wasn't provoked, he was usually pretty good. First you did hot potato, getting the kids to bounce the balls off their wrists, and all of them were doing fantastically. Then after doing that for a while, you had them line up and run to the net to spike while you set for them. Emmy had good form, and when she was focused on the task, she was 1000% focused, and nothing could break her concentration. Mr. and Mrs. Totoro had come out to watch, and you saw him nod a few times when the kids did a particularly good spike. Okay, let's show Mr. and Mrs. Totoro how we can do it with our other hand, you said with excitement. You'd been getting the kids to practice hitting with their non-dominant hands so that their little bodies didn't develop muscles unevenly. And, as little kids did, they took to it very easily and were damn near ambidextrous. Mr. Totoro grinned and clapped for each child as they managed to hit a ball over the net, and then once they'd finished, then they got some morning tea. They're all doing very well, he commented to you. Emmy is especially good with her spikes. Yes, she's very focused, you said in agreement, chatting a little more about Emmy. From where she was sipping on her juice popper, Koemi listened in, a small pout pulling at her little lips. After eating time was over, you got them back into two lines to practice passing the balls to one another, and each child was assigned a colour and given that colour sticker to put on their shirt, including yourself, kneeling of course, to make it fair. One at a time you called a colour, and whoever had the ball had to throw to the person with the same colour. Okay, blue, you called brightly. Koemi had the ball and so tossed it to Kyo, who had the blue sticker on his shirt. Now green, you called to Kyo, who tossed it to Emmy, who had the green sticker. Now pink, you called, hoping she'd throw it to you because you had the pink sticker on, but instead she tossed it to Koemi, who had purple. Oops, you called to Emmy. I called for pink, but you threw it to Koemi and she's purple. But I like purple, Emmy replied to you. That's great, I'm glad you like purple, but you had to throw it to pink. Let's try again. Get your listening ears on for the colour I call, okay? Emmy nodded and Koemi trotted out of line to hand the ball back to her, as Goro walked off. Hey, come back, Goro, we're not done yet, you said. He looked up with surprise as if to say, What, you're still here? And then turned and got back into line. Now to yellow, you called to Emmy, who threw it to Koemi again, because she's purple. Oops, where's yellow? You asked Emmy. She pointed to Goro. So why did you toss it to Koemi if you know Goro is yellow? You asked her. Because she's purple, and I like purple, Emmy replied. You were about to fight it again, but decided that it wasn't worth the effort and called it quits on that game. Can we do spiky? Koemi asked you when you let everyone go and do their own thing. Yes, good idea. Let's do that again. I'll call everyone... No, just you and just Koemi and me. Koemi, she said in a firm yet pleading voice, and you smiled down at her. Yes, okay, just Mummy and just you, baby K, you agreed, following her to the nets. You foul it and Koemi hit it, she said, giving you a volleyball to set for her. Okay, you said with a little amused look. She walked away a bit and then turned and got ready for her run. You call, you encouraged her. Okay, she called happily as she started to run. You waited for the right time and then gently tossed the ball, and she ran, jumped and gave it a good hit. Oh, well done, you praised her. She beamed with pride. Come and me focus, she asked you. Are you what, sweetheart? You asked back, trying to work out what she had said. Come and me focus. Focus us, you asked. Come and me focus, like Emmy, where Emmy does jumping. Focus like Emmy. Oh, focused like Emmy. Yeah. Focus, she said with delight. Oh, yeah, of course, you're very focused, you praised her. I focus better, she announced firmly as she trotted off under the net and retrieved the ball and then handed it to you so you could set for her again. Oh, she must have overheard Mr. Totoro and I talking about Emmy being focused, and she got a little bit jealous, you wondered as you set her up for another spike. She was going all out with her hits and watching the ball right into her hand, so you made sure to praise her up big, and as the lesson wrapped up, you left her to see the other kids off. She went back to practicing receiving on her own, and Mr. Totoro walked over to give her a hand while you said goodbye to the others. Your little one's coming a long way, he said to you when you came back to them. She is, isn't she? You praised her in front of him. Very focused. She beamed with pride, and when Dabi came to get her a few minutes later, she proudly announced to him that she was focused and hitted the ball well. He was most excited to hear this, and happily picked her up and swung her up onto his shoulders so that he could take her home for her nap. See you later, he called to you as he left, and you waved them off before cleaning up and getting ready for the next lot. Mrs. Totoro was napping in the morning sun, so you sat down to rest in the silence beside her. Mr. Totoro had disappeared, but you didn't think much of it. He often went to tend his garden and would up and walk off at random times. And there ends chapter 71. Stay tuned for chapter 72 coming tomorrow. I'll see you then.